All right, so this is part 3. We are now going to play with arcs and sectors of a circle with the pie chart one. So when we first select it, it's a code example that belongs to Coach Parker. And so it's important that you choose fork to make it your own, and you need to be logged into CodePen for that to happen. So I'm going to jump into my other CodePen account to do that. So this is a little different than your process. And here is my last CodePen I was playing around with, right? And I'm just going to get rid of this one, put in the new one. So this is Coach Parker's, not Gary Parker's. And I'm going to fork it so it can be my own. So now it belongs to Gary Parker, different code at the end there. All right, so this one, I just kind of want to play around with these different arcs. So in addition to making a whole circle, you can make part of a circle. And that's using the path element with an arc. And the arc has an X radius, a Y radius, an axis of rotation, which I don't mess with too much, but could. And then there's the large arc flag and the sweep flag, and then the finishing X and Y. So I just want to go over how, for example, I made this select sector here that dude lives in. So to do that, I'm going to need to draw on this. And then we'll grab some code to play around with it. And this is kind of like the last one. You're just going to change a few things and see what happens. All right, so we'll put that in the notebook to play with. And then let's see. I want the red filled piece of pie. Okay, so here I make a note. I pulled the red piece out, and this one has red. Okay, so that's the one I'm playing with there, versus this one has an orange, is the one below. So I'm going to play with those two here. Screenshot the code. So I'm going to compare these two paths and then change them. Okay, what do we got? Let's get a highlighter out. So I have a path, and the path moves to the point 50, 45. And I guess I should have grabbed the other part of the code to grasp where that is. So if we go back here, we should also be looking at that view screen or the view box. Some things around here. Put that right here. So the important thing about a view box is, I said it earlier, I would explain what this means. Highlighter. This is the starting point. So think about when you graphed in an algebra class, usually you had an x-axis and a y-axis, and they intersected at the point 0, 0. So what this is saying is start the view at the point -10, 10, -10, -10. So that point right there in the upper left corner is that -10, 10. And then from there, it says move a width of 120 pixels. So if we start at -10, let's get a different color here. So again, this is x equals -10 right there. Oops, what happened? -10. And I go 120 pixels to the right. That's the width right there. So the view box is starting x, starting y, width, and height. So from -10, I go to the right 120. That's going to put me over here at 110, right? The distance between -10 and 120 sorry, distance from -10 to 110 is a width of 120. Same thing the other way. So this starts at y equals -10, and it ends down here at y equals positive 110, because that would give me a height of 120 there. So then positive 10 is going to be, sorry, 0 is going to be around here, and 100 is going to be about over there. And then right in the middle here should be 50. Same thing the other way. This should be about y equals 0. This should be about y equals 100. And right in the middle here should be y equals 50. And so the center of my circle here should be the point 50, 50. So if we check out the orange path here, we can see I move to the point 50, 50, which is right there. And then I have, let's see, I drew a line to the point 150. So 150 would be right there. So notice the line. And then I arc with a radius of 50 and to the point 50, 100. So x equals 50, y equals 100 would be down here. So this is one reason I give you a grid to play around with these. And this would be the point 150 right there. And the arc in between there is based on a radius of 50 in the x direction and a radius of 50 in the y direction. So that's the x radius and the y radius. The 0 means don't rotate the whole system. And then the next options aren't that important to us, but I'll bring them up anyway. They are I have to look it up all the time, the large arc flag and the sweep flag. And basically what that means is based on any 2 points that you pick, a starting point and an ending point, and a radius for a circle, you could end up with 4 possible arcs from here. So the circle could do something like this. Notice there's a larger arc on that side than this side, or it could, just a different color, do something like this, depending on the radiuses that you picked. So for example, based on those 2 points, this direction here would be the larger of the 2 arcs versus this one is the smaller of the 2 arcs. And so these 2 numbers right here are going to be a 0 or a 1 to indicate do you want the smaller arc or the larger arc? And then the direction you go is the sweep. From the starting point, do you want to sweep clockwise or do you want to sweep counterclockwise? So depending on how you set these, so this one right here, again, that one is the rotation. This one is the large, and this one is called the sweep. So based on the large and the sweep being a 0 or a 1, you will get one of these 4 arcs. This one, this larger, darker one, or that one right there. So those matter. So let's play with one of those for fun, and then we'll go back and play with the red one. So what happens if I change the large sweep, that second 0 after the 50, from a 0 to a 1? So we can see what I'm talking about in action there. And I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff there. Let's get rid of that. We'll keep this one paragraph. That's cool. All right, so orange is this one down here. And so there's my 50 and my 50. So it's the second 0 I want to change to a 1 and see what happens. Okay. And it picked an arc that's way off the screen. So that's going to be hard to see. So let's put it back since it's not in my view screen. Let's make it a 0. Let's change the sweep flag to see what happens. So that should change the direction. Okay, so that swept that way instead. What if we leave that 0 and we make this one a 1? now it swept this direction to cover the circle that was there. So let's see, put that back to a 0. So here I've done an inner arc playing with the sweep and the large. And to put it back, it was a 0 and a 1. Okay, cool. All right, so again, that would be a play thing you could do on this run right here. Let's see what I did to the red. How did I pull that out? How could I push it back in? Let's go over to the drawing page to see that. All right, let's pick a new color to draw with. How about light green? So here we're going to play with the red arc right there. And instead of picking a center of 50-50, I picked a center of x equals 55, y equals 45, which is right there. So that's my new center. And then I drew a line to the point 55, -5. So let's see, x equals 55 is here, and then y equals -5 is about that high. So that's the point I did next, right there. And then from there, I arced with a radius of 50 in the x direction and a radius of 50 in the y direction. Don't rotate the system. And then I'm going to do the small arc sweep, and the 1 I think sweeps clockwise, 0 sweeps counterclockwise, and then end at the point 105.45. So 105.45 should be this point right here. And the Z, remember what the Z means from the first video? Z means go back to wherever you started, which was right there. So that's what the Z means. Go to start. So what would I do if I want to put this, instead of popping it out, what if I want to push it back in? So that means I would have to shrink the x value, increase the y value for all of these points. So I'd have to decrease each x value by 5, and then increase each y value by 5, because remember, y goes positive is down. All right, let's see if I can do that. Let's put the pi wedge back in. All right, so that scroll is the red one here. So I want to first shrink each x value by 5. So I'm going to make that a 50. And then over here is another x value. I always separate points by commas, so we can always tell what a point is. Make that 50. Ooh, notice it's getting all tweaky. It's kind of cool. And then the last point is over here. So instead of 105, we want that to be 100. So we've scooted all the x values over. Then we want to increase all the y values, because remember, y positive is down. Sometimes that's a little freaky. So instead of 45, I want 50. Instead of -5, I want to increase that by 5 to 0. And 45 increases to 55, or 50, sorry. And then that should put the circle back in. Could we pop out this blue one there? Let's try. Let's see if we can guess how to do it. So that, okay, here's blue for fill. So that's that one right there. So let's start with the center point. So we'll start by, say, moving that point over here. So to do that, I think all I need to do is change the x value. So I want to decrease the x value by 5, say. So that would be right here. So we're going to change that first 50 to 45. See what happens. Okay, that's cool. So then can we try that with these up here? So with this point right here, so is that where I'm going next? So next it says draw a line to x equals 10, y equals 80. So 10, oh, that would be this one down here. Okay, so this is the next point down here. And I just want to push that point to the left a little. So I want to change the 10 to a 5. Cool, not too bad. And then the last point is at the end here. So instead of x equals 20, that would be right here. I want that to be x equals 15 over here. Nice. Not perfect. Notice that there's a little less space here than over there. So apparently moving a circle off center is a little, or sector off center is a little more complicated than just shifting X values. But it's a start. That's pretty cool. So I just want you to play around. Change a few parameters here, change a few colors, make it your own. You could delete the text or you could leave it in there. Let's see, I'm going to change it to my cat's name, Momo. Nice. And let's see, shift it over a little bit. So maybe X equals 70. 75. There we go. That's lovely. Maybe it needs to drop down a little. So if I drop it down, that has to increase the Y value. I always have to stop and think about that. Cool. All right, I think I'll try one more pie piece. So maybe the purple one. Let's see. That's probably, there's purple right there. So I want to push it out a little bit. So I want to move X and Y to make that happen. So maybe I'll try adding, I don't want to add 5. That'll make it too close to the blue one. So maybe I'll change X by 2. And then, oops, wrong way. I want to go 2 the other way. So 48. Okay, and then Y, I want to decrease it to bring it up. So maybe I'll try 48 for that one too. Okay, and so then I'll have to do something similar for the other point. So the line to 2010 should be this point here. So I want to shift it back 2 and back 2 for X and Y. So it looks like I want, instead of 2018, instead of 10, 8. All right, it's looking not bad. And then the last point is at the end here, I need to decrease by 2. So 50 becomes 48. And sometimes I have to draw this on a grid to get a grasp of it. And then that back 2 would be -2. And that's one reason on some of these assignments I gave you a grid to play with. That's not bad. Okay, I'm going to call that one good. So I already forked it. So next thing I want to do is save it. And now if I go over to my user menu and I go view my work, I should see that that's another one of my work things. So I have my starting example 1 that I tweaked, I have my basic shapes that I tweaked, and now I have the pie chart that I tweaked. Okay, so the last one is based on all the things we've played with here, different shapes we have here, different shapes and the coordinates here, and playing around with sectors of circles. I want you to make your own design. So play around, make something that you think is attractive. You might want to think like a simple logo you could make out of 3 to 5 shapes and maybe some text. And what you're going to do is you're going to draw it out on a 160 by 100 grid, and then you're going to try to use the codes that were in these other 3 assignments to make your own SVG. So there's going to be some copy and paste there. And I will come back to that one next.